Hi guys, I'm Jess and welcome to the Riverdale Review.
Lollipop, lollipop, oh, lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop.
So Riverdale was off the air for 2 weeks because of the Olympics, and I don't know about you guys, but I was so ready for the first episode back. So after the 2-week hiatus, I was expecting a very big revolutionary episode, and unfortunately this one didn't quite meet my expectations. Now that's through no fault of anybody associated with the TV show. Obviously the Olympics came and intersected the consistent storyline that we've had throughout, so naturally I as a fan was hoping for a really jam-packed episode to bring us back into the season and propel us forward. This episode to me felt like a bit of a tie-in episode to really bring into light some of the storylines that we've been seeing throughout the entire season. We of course have the affair that's happening between Sheriff Keller and Mayor McCoy, and Cheryl discloses that Archie and Betty shared that scandalous kiss. So this episode begins with Hiram getting called away on business. He and Hermione had planned on spending a lovely relaxing weekend away at what Veronica calls Lodge Lodge, which I thought was very clever. So instead, Hiram offers Lodge Lodge to Veronica, Archie, Betty, and Jughead for what he describes as a romantic weekend away. Now this struck me as a little odd. Don't forget, Veronica is his only daughter, and the last thing that he wants to know about is that her and Archie are up to no good. Like I said, interesting choice of words, calling it a romantic getaway or a romantic weekend, but it is Riverdale, and we have seen that anything goes in this town.
It's Cheryl, you welfare baby.
Something wrong?
Not yet. I just want to make sure you know that Archie and Betty kissed in front of my house right before Christmas and that it seemed pretty serious.
Like, with tongue serious?
That's all. Enjoy your couples only weekend. Kisses to all. Bye now.
So to Jughead's credit, he does deal with Betty and Archie's kiss kind of well for him. I expected a much bigger explosion, and like Archie and Veronica even comment in this episode, you know, they're gonna break up for the 12th time this year. There's that immediate anger that we see on his face and, you know, his kind of coldness towards Betty. But then when they do end up discussing it, he discloses that, you know, they're childhood friends. They've been in each other's lives for such a long time. It was kind of only a matter of time before something like this happens. To even the playing field, as Jughead says, Veronica and Jughead do share a kiss, and it is terribly awkward. When the kiss itself actually happens in true Jughead form, he completely freezes up and it looks terribly unromantic. Now, a very interesting moment during this episode is when Betty decides to do a little bit of role-playing in the bedroom for Jughead. Now, Betty hasn't really shown this side of her to Jughead yet. It's going to be very interesting to see if these little appearances of Dark Betty continue to pop up in the bedroom, or if this is a one-off kind of deal. Because Betty's going to have to be really careful to make sure that Jughead doesn't kind of clue on to what she's doing in her own private time. Now let's talk about Chick for just a second and how creepy he is. So in the last couple of episodes, you've seen him completely catatonic because of the murder that happened in the house. Now we still don't quite know what happened or who that guy really was. I believe it's only a matter of time before we find that out. But Chick is dealing with this in the creepiest of ways. He's popping up all over the place. He's using Betty's shower without her permission. And he's just kind of watching her and taking it all in, and it's very, very unnerving. So it didn't occur to me until this episode that none of Betty's friends, including Jughead, have actually met Chick yet. They've heard all about him, but no one other than Kevin has actually met him face to face. The interaction between Chick and Jughead could not have been any more awkward, and it really highlights to Jughead just how unusual Chick is. I'm hoping in the next couple of episodes we really get to see who he is and what he's up to. There's so much yet to discover with him, and there's so many different directions that the creators can take him in, and I'm so excited to see that all unfold. What always baffles me about Riverdale is how much involvement the kids of Riverdale have in their parents' lives. I don't know about you guys, but if, say for example, one of my parents were having an affair, I would probably be the last to know about it. Sure, you get those feelings that maybe something's not quite right, but you don't necessarily have such an involvement in it, like for example, Josie and Kevin. So Josie comes home and she's already aware that there is a relationship between her mom and Sheriff Keller. But she kind of sees them canoodling and it doesn't sit right with her. She approaches her mom and, says, "You need to tell Dad. He needs to tell his wife." Kevin doesn't know. She explains that she has told Josie's father and it's only a matter of time before Sheriff Keller tells his wife. Now, half out of spite and half because it just doesn't sit right with her, Josie goes to Kevin and exposes the whole affair. So there's tension not only between Josie and her mom, but also Kevin and his father. In true Riverdale fashion, at the end of the episode, there is a moment of clarity and reflection and rekindling between father and son, mother and daughter, and all four of them together. It looks like they've started the process of trying to come to terms with this affair. About midway through the episode, it's also revealed that Hiram has purchased the Riverdale newspaper where Alice Cooper works. Betty receives a phone call from Alice and Alice is beside herself. Betty immediately takes that out on Veronica, who of course defends herself. Archie comes to her aid. Jughead comes to Betty's aid, and then also, throws in that Hiram has purchased the trailer park as well. But before this argument really gets underway, the foursome are held at gunpoint when a bunch of hooded men break into the lodge. But Veronica, being a true and inspired lodge, presses a panic button that's conveniently hidden on a nightstand in the bedroom. The alarm sounds and the hooded figures run off to avoid arrest. Before one of them leaves, he grabs Veronica's locket from around her neck, and Archie, being the true gentleman he is, runs after this guy and tackles him to the ground. He's beating him to a bloody pulp to get his girlfriend's necklace back when Andres arrives and says he'll take care of the situation. Now, this isn't the first situation that we've seen him take care of. We know that he's Hiram's kind of right-hand man who does all the dirty work when it's needed. Of course, Archie doesn't exactly disclose that information later on when Veronica's thanking him for defending her honor and getting her back her necklace. Now, something that's been going on for a little while, but has been an underlying storyline throughout this whole season, has been the topic of Cheryl's sexuality. There were a few moments in earlier episodes where it sort of hinted that maybe Cheryl was also interested in women. In this particular episode, there are several moments of real tenderness between Tony and Cheryl. Now, I immediately thought, okay, they're setting this up that Cheryl and Tony will now become a thing. But I think Tony, as somebody who is identified as being attracted to both genders, is really that guiding force to help Cheryl come to terms with her sexuality. So Cheryl confides in Tony after several very, rough and abrasive conversations that she has in fact been in love before, and it was with another woman, and her mother kind of smothered that very early on in the piece. So I think under Tony's guidance, Cheryl's in good hands, and it's going to be really enjoyable and sweet to see which direction she goes in. Thanks for joining me on another episode of the Riverdale Review. Don't forget to hit that big old subscribe button, and I'll see you again next week.